Akhandamandalakaram vyaptam yena characharam tatpadam darshitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sakshad haritvena samasta shastrairuktastatha bhavyata eva sadbihi kintu prabhoryav priya eva tasya vande guru Shri Charanarvindam. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado yasya prasadannagati kutoapi ध्यायन् स्तुवंस्तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम्. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्. Sarvebhyo namaha, sarvesham krite namaskaraha. Welcome to this session. We are now listening to the narratives of Sri Krishna from Srimad Bhagavatam, Dashamaskanda, the third chapter. Where are we right now? I'll do a quick recap. In the last class, this was the last shloka that we studied. Shri Shuka Uvacha Ityuktva Sidharistushnim Bhagavan Atmamayaya Pitro Sampashyatos Sadyo Babhuva Prakrita Shishuhu. The shloka says that after speaking in this manner to his parents, Bhagavan, that is Sri Krishna, he assumed the form of a normal baby. Until that point of time, he was having 4 hands. He was wearing the yellow garment that Lord Vishnu wears. He was having the form of Lord Vishnu, but as a baby, a small baby Vishnu. Okay, very innovative, very creative presentation of himself. So he had that form, and he was speaking to his parents Vasudeva and Devaki. After speaking completely, in which in his speech he narrated, and we heard this last time, about the 3 births, the first 2 births of Vasudeva and Devaki, in which he appeared as their son. And he said that this was the 3rd birth in which he is now appearing as their son. So he gives the background. He says that in the first birth they were Prishni and Sutapa, and he was known as Prishni Garbha, who appeared in the Garbha of Prishni. In the second birth they were Kashyapa and Aditi, or Aditi and Kashyapa, and he appeared as Vamana. And now in the 3rd birth, they are Vasudeva, Devaki and Vasudeva, and he is appearing as Sri Krishna. So after saying this, he tells them that I told you all this because only then you will really know that I have come as your son. Otherwise, there may still be some doubt, but now you know for sure that I have appeared. And you prayed, and now this is the reward for your prayers. After this, what happens? Now, in the Harivamsha, it's not in the Bhagavatam, but in the Harivamsha, which is written by Sri Vasudeva ji himself after Mahabharata, it is described that Sri Bhagavan tells them in that narration. Here in the Bhagavatam, we don't find that particular thing, but in Harivamsha, Sri Bhagavan himself tells them that please take me to the other side of Yamuna, in the house of Nanda. A daughter has been born, so bring that girl child here and leave me there. He tells this to Vasudeva before he stops speaking. So now he has stopped speaking, so now he has become a normal baby. So how does a normal baby look like just after it is born? It's fast asleep, and you can imagine that it's just wrapped with a simple cloth, so it's lying like that. So now Vasudeva has to figure out how to take this forward. He has to fulfill the order that his master, Sri Bhagavan himself, has given him, although appeared as his baby, but he has ordered him that now take me there. Now in Harivamsha also, there is no description given in the sense of Sri Bhagavan does not tell Vasudeva what to do. Explicitly, no. So naturally in Vasudeva's mind, this thought would be that what should I do next? And as you read in my email, those are the emotions going on in him. He's faced with a enormous task, which is practically impossible from anybody's perspective, because he's there as a prisoner of Kamsa, and there is this dark room outside which there are guards, and the room itself is cordoned by heavy gates, tall gates, or you can say doors, metal doors, it's described. They are locked, with chains and with bolts. And these guards are just outside the room, and there are guards elsewhere also in the palace. So even if he gets out of the room, getting out of the palace and then crossing the river, and the river now it's midnight, it's past midnight, it's pitch dark, it's not a Purnima night, it's a rainy Bhadrapad season. The clouds are there, it's raining, it's dense and dark. Of course, the moon has just risen, but that doesn't matter. The river is in spate. There is turbulence. There's no bridge also. So he has to go across, and then he has to leave the baby in Nanda and Yashoda's house. Even if they are awake at that time, they are going to be surprised that this guy suddenly comes with a baby, and our baby is here. And he's saying, I'm going to take away your baby and give you this one. Who's going to accept that? Nobody will accept it. So it's a very strange and awkward situation that he's put into, and he's just thinking, how is this going to happen? So as he contemplates on it, all of a sudden, he gets this realization that he should now get up and start walking. So he just picks up. He doesn't have the full answer, but he knows that he should start doing this and then the answer will emerge. So he picks up the baby and starts walking. So what happens next? We are going to read in the next 7 shlokas. ततश्च शौरि ततश्च शौरिर्भगवत् ततश्च शौरिर्भगवत् प्रचोदितः सुतं समादाय ससूतिकागृहात् यदा बहिर्गन्तुमीयेष तर्ह्यजा या योगमाया जनिनन्दजायया. It just says that Vasudeva just picked up the child and he started walking towards the door. At the same time, when he thought, how am I going to go outside, at that moment, a girl child was born to Yashoda. And she is also described here as Aja. Aja means one who never is born, because it's not a normal child. It's not a child like a normal human baby which is born because of its past karma. It is Yogamaya herself. It describes Tarhyaja Ya Yogamaya. She is Yogamaya. Remember that she has appeared in the same narrative before when Sri Bhagavan ordered her to transfer Anantasesha from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. And now she's going to help him in this Leela as well. She's going to come and she's going to do something very wonderful. So she has just taken birth, or she has just appeared out of the womb of Yashoda. So this is described in this shloka. And then what happens? It says, Taya Taya hrita pratyaya sarva vrittishu dvastheshu paureshvapi shayiteshvatha dwarascha sarvaf pihita duratyaya बृहत् कपाटायस कीलशङ्कलैः ताः कृष्णवाहे वसुदेवे आगते स्वयं व्यवर्तन्त यथा तमोरवेः ववर्षपर्जन्य उपांशुगर्जितः शेषोन्वगात् वारिनिवारयन् फणैः. So these two shlokas describe a number of things that happened immediately after this. It says, Taya hritapratyaya sarva vrittishu. The Yogamaya who just appeared, she uses her power and she puts everyone to sleep. It says, Dvastheshu paurveshvapi shayateshvata. Everybody in both the cities, the city of Mathura on one side and the city of Gokul on the other side. You can say Gokul is a small town or village. But here on this side Mathura, on the other side Gokul, in both places, she put everyone to sleep with her power. Okay? And dwarascha sarvah pihitaha duratyayaha brihat kapataya sakila shrinkalaihi. So the entrance to that room and the entrance to the palace, you can imagine all the entrances that Vasudeva has to pass through. They are all made of heavy metal. They're all metallic. Ayasa kila shrinkalaihi, and they're bolted with iron bolts and chains, and they are huge in size. So Taha Krishnavahe Vasudeve Agate means when Vasudeva reached each of them, Swayam Vivartante Yatha Tamoravehe, they themselves opened up. The chains just loosened, the bolts opened, the door just swung open. Each of them, as he was nearing the first door, suddenly these things happened and the door opened. As he reached the next door also opened and he walked out. So each door that he went to, just magically opened and he just kept walking. And he reached outside, and this door opening is compared to how Tamo Ravehe, when Ravi or the sun, when the sun rises, automatically the darkness is dispelled. When the sun comes up, the sun doesn't have to do anything to move the darkness aside and make himself present. Does the sun have to do that? No. Automatically, when the sun comes up, the darkness makes way for him and his light. So, in the same manner, when Vasudeva approached, he didn't have to do anything. He just has to go near the door, just like today we have automatic doors. We have these sensor doors, which, we just go near the door just opens, exactly like that. So, Yogamaya put in place that potency by which that sensor like effect happens and everything just opens up. So, this happened, and then he reached outside the palace. Then what did he see? Vavarsha parjanya upamshu garjitaha. So outside the ambience was raining. It was raining outside, and there was a sound of light thunder. And Sheshonvagat Vari Nivarayan Pranai. So to take care of that, otherwise he would get drenched. Naturally, if it's raining outside and you're going with a small newborn baby, nobody wants to get drenched in that condition. If you're alone, maybe you are running, then you'd like to get drenched. But if you're in this condition, who would want to get drenched? So, what did he have to do anything? Did he have to now arrange for an umbrella? No, because Shesha, Ananta Sesha appeared there and he covered, as you can see in the picture on the right hand side. I created this picture with Gemini. It took me a few iterations to do that, but finally I got this. And you can see Anantasesha covering Vasudeva. So Vasudeva had the cover automatically. He didn't have to get wet. Even one drop did not fall on him. Anantasesha took care of that. He became the umbrella and he walked behind, or you can say the snakes don't walk, right? Snakes, they slide or whatever. Their movement is the movement of a snake. So the snake, Anantasesha, was sliding behind Vasudeva as Vasudeva walked. Vasudeva didn't have to do anything other than just carry the baby, hold the baby, and just keep walking. Now, next, Magho nivarshatyasakrit Yamuna, sorry, Magho nivarshatyasakrit Gambhiratayogha Javormi Phenila Bhayanakavarta Shatakula Nadi Margam Dadau Sindhuriva Shriyaf Patehe. So it says that it was raining and he reached the bank of Yamuna, which he had to cross now, right? There's no bridge and there's no boat also at this time. So he has to now figure out how to cross. But what did he have to do? So it says that it first describes how Yamuna looked like. Yamuna here is described as Yamanuja. She's not, the word Yamuna is not used here. Yamanuja is used. Yamanuja means Yamasya Anuja. She is the sister of Yama, Yamadeva. We call Yamadeva as god of death, right? He's responsible for, actually the word god of death is not the correct word for describing him. The correct usage for him would be the chief justice. He's the chief justice of this universe, just like we have a chief justice in every country, at least in all the democratic countries. So we have a chief justice in this universe, and that is Yama. That post is called Yama. And whichever Jivatma occupies that post, that name he will have. So she's the sister. Yama and Yamuna are born together to Surya Deva. So they are son and daughter of Surya Deva. So she is his sister. She is referred to here as Yamanuja, and she's also elsewhere referred to as Yami. The word Yami, which is sometimes girls are named Yami. Yami refers to Yamuna. So Maghoni Varshati Asakrit. So Yamuna was actually continuously subject to the downpour. There was a continuous downpour, not occasional downpour. So like monsoon season, right? So continuously downpour was happening on her waters, and she was flooded. So she was in a flooded state. Gambhira Tayoga Javormi Augaja Urmi Fenila means her waters were deep because of the flood, and there were waves because of the turbulence. There were waves in her, and because of the waves, there were whirlpools and there were foam. There was foam, frothing everywhere because of the turbulence. Bhayanaka Avarta Shatakula. And she was afflicted. Yamuna was afflicted, or you can say completely characterized by frightening, Bhayanaka, Avarta. Avarta means whirlpools. There were whirlpools everywhere. You could see eddies and whirlpools all around. The water was in complete spit. And such a Nadi, Yamuna is described like this. What did she do? Margam dadau sinduriva shriyavpate. Just like when Rama reached Rameshwaram and he had to cross over to Lanka, it was decided to make a bridge. So the ocean opened up and allowed the monkeys and and Rama to build a bridge there. In the same way, Yamuna made way and allowed Vasudeva to cross over. So you can see him in the picture walking over the water comfortably as if it is just some normal road and a little bit of water on it. So so she provided for him a path by which he could just cross over. Nandavrajam shaurirupeत्य तत्र तान् गोपान् प्रसुप्तान् उपलभ्य निद्रया नन्दव्रजं शौरिरुपेत्य तत्र तान् गोपान् प्रसुप्तान् उपलभ्य निद्रया सुतं यशोदाशयने निधाय तत्सुतामुपादाय पुनर्गृहानगात्. So he went there to Nanda Yashoda's house, and he would have normally expected that they would be awake and they would probably, or they would have slept, and then he would have to knock on the door, and then they would wake up and somebody would let him inside, and probably, how will I talk to them? But he didn't have to do anything. He went there, the door was open, he just walked into the house of Nanda and Yashoda, and everybody was fast asleep. He walked straight to the room where Yashoda Ma was sleeping, and he saw the baby that he had just heard of from his own baby. And he kept his baby there next to Yashoda. He picked up the girl baby which was lying next to her, and he just came back in the same route to his house. So all this is described in just one shloka. Went there, saw everything, everything was perfect for him to exchange the babies, straight went to Yashoda Ma's room, kept the baby there, picked up her baby, the girl baby, came back by the same route. There was no obstacle, and reached the room from where he had started. Devakyashayane Nesya Vasudevothadarikam Pratimuchya Padorloham Aste Purvavadavritaha. So what did he do after reaching his room? So he went to where Devaki was sleeping, and he placed this girl next to Devaki. And then he sat down himself on his bed and ensured that the chains to which his feet were, he was actually chained. That is not told clear, but now in this shloka it becomes clear. His feet were chained. So Kamsa was so cruel that he had not only put them behind heavy metal doors and chains and locks on the door, he had chained his feet also. So he won't figure out a way to escape. So what did Vasudeva do? He was so mindful, he was so attentive to the situation that he took the chains back and locked himself. He bound himself with the chains and then he lay down. In the meanwhile, the scene shifts to Yashoda. Next day morning, Yashoda Nanda Patni cha Jatam Paramabudhyata Natal Lingam Parishanta Nidraya Pagata Smritihi. So Yashoda, the wife of Nanda, she was completely unaware of what gender the child was. The child that was, she knew that she knew that a child is taking birth. Obviously, the mother will know when the child is coming out of her womb. So she knew that the child is coming out, but the enormous amount of the strain that she had gone through in that labor of releasing the child from her womb, she was so tired that she could not even notice the gender of the child. That's what it says. Natal lingam paramabudhyata. She had no idea. So she had absolutely no idea that this child was a girl child, and she just fell asleep. Of course, it says Nidraya Apagata Smriti. So she not only fell asleep because of the labor, but also because of Yogamaya's force. Yogamaya ensured that even if the labor doesn't act, she will be fast asleep when Vasudeva reaches this place. So this is how the third chapter ends. The third chapter now has described how Sri Bhagavan appeared from the womb of Mother Devaki, and then the conversation that happened, Mother Devaki, after Vasudeva offers his prayers first to the baby, Devaki offers her prayers, and then Sri Bhagavan responds to them. And then Vasudeva does all these things. And with this, the third chapter of the Dashama Skandha of Srimad Bhagavatam ends. It just says that all this happened. And what happened next when, the next morning here in Gokul, they wake up and then they find the male child. But even before that, here on the side of Mathura, Kamsa comes to know that a baby has been born when the girl child starts crying, and then he comes. So what happens there, we will see in the next class. But now we will reflect on what we heard in this session. This is very important. So the first thing is that Vasudeva accomplished what would normally be considered impossible. So even to him, it is not that Vasudeva thought, Vishnu has been born to be, so now I'm the father of a big guy, so I can do whatever I like. Okay, so in this world, we sometimes see that when somebody's son or child is becoming a celebrity or becomes a celebrity, then sometimes we see the parents also become very, they become very powerful now, they become very prominent, and then their prominence is seen in their actions. So here, Vasudeva remained the same humble person, even though Vishnu himself, the supreme being in which the whole universe resides, or in whom the whole universe resides, has now been born to his wife. He has no arrogance. He has no, false sense of power. He does what he is supposed to do. So he has accomplished the impossible just because of the power of Sri Bhagavan with him. But he had no idea it will happen this way. It just happened and he just followed it. So our question is, what makes the impossible possible? Okay, very often in life, we too are faced with situations which seem to be very difficult. At one point of time, we thought that was impossible to achieve. Okay, there are two types of things. One is that we are in a very difficult situation and we have to somehow come out of it. For example, you reach the airport and you find that you have reached when the checkout counter, the check-in counter has closed because some delays happened in the traffic, not for your fault. Now, what do? The flight, they will not let you board the flight, even though the flight has not yet taken off. They just say that the only thing you can do now is cancel your ticket. We are willing to refund a little bit of your money, but we can't let you board the flight. So that's one example of a simple example of a difficult situation, suddenly, unexpectedly, that comes. So what do you do in such situations? You just think, there you're not trying to accomplish a goal. You're just trying to get out of that bad situation. That is one type of situation. So another contrasting situation is when, well, you are not in any difficult situation, but you are inspired or you feel that you should do something that is impossible, that you have always considered impossible. So, for example, for me at one point of time, doing a PhD was what seemed impossible. Okay, this was before I did my PhD, obviously. A few years before that, I had done my master's, and it had been a long time since I had finished my master's. And then I thought, you know, academics is impossible now because I am out of academics completely. I was working in in some organization as a administrative manager kind of role, talking to customers, talking to suppliers, talking to my own colleagues, making phone calls, receiving phone calls, keeping appointments, the usual stuff. No idea what textbooks have. All that is forgotten. Several years over. Okay. I started my PhD nearly 12 years after I finished my master's. Of course, some of you in this audience have had a longer gap too, but I'm just telling you what I went through. It looked impossible at that time. And then something came inside which said, okay, you can try. Let's just register for a PhD. Something will happen. So somehow it started. Now, I'm sure many of you have stories to tell, probably much more difficult than mine. So impossible sometimes becomes possible if different factors fall in place. So what are those factors? Let's look at that. The impossible goal in life. So this is where we want to get the achievement of the goal, and I'm talking about the likelihood of goal achievement as a construct. Okay, in Sanskrit I've written it as Lakshya Siddhi Sambhavana, making the goal possible. So what would be a factor which leads to this? One important factor could be the motivation to achieve that goal. Unless this is there, it's impossible to achieve a goal, particularly if it is difficult to achieve. If it's an impossible goal, when I say impossible, I mean something that looks impossible but may not actually be impossible. Like in Vasudeva's case, the goal would have seemed impossible before he actually started walking. Until that point of time, it would have looked like, how is this possible given all the situation in which I am in? So it seems impossible, but it may be possible. It may be possible to make it happen. We don't know that as yet. So the first factor that has to fall in place to achieve any such impossible seeming goal is the motivation to achieve it, the want. Lakshya Siddhi Lobha. Lobha here is referred, or greed is referred to, or used in a very positive sense. There should be a strong desire that I want to achieve it. If this desire is not there, even if 1,000 people tell us to do it, we will not do it. It will look impossible only. But the moment the desire comes, then there is a thought in the mind which says that it might be possible. Then, slowly the darkness starts moving away and you start seeing that, okay, some other people have done it. They're also like me only. Maybe I can also do it. Maybe there is something that I should consider, but I can do it. So this motivation is what begins the journey. But where does this motivation come from? So the motivation itself springs from a larger purpose in life. So a meaningful life is a life in which there is a purpose, a clear purpose. Okay. It is true that, many people do live without a clear purpose in life. They just live, just to exist. They just exist. And this thing that, I have to feed myself today, I have to ensure that today is spent properly. Or they may not even think it should be spent properly. They think today should be lived. Each day should be lived. But there's no question of, or in their mind, there's no question of a larger purpose. Why am I living? What is it that I want to achieve in my life as a whole? So closely connected to that purpose is our sense of identity. What do we think of ourselves as? How do we identify ourselves as? For example, let's say a professor who's got a strong purpose in life will identify himself in that role as a professor. I'm a professor of this subject, whatever subject. Okay, all over the world there are academics, and many of them have a strong purpose in life. I think I should make a solid contribution to my field, which was not known before. I should create present useful knowledge which people will benefit from. So they have a purpose. They feel themselves identifying strongly. Their sense of identity is merged in that purpose. So if this is there, such a purpose is there, then if our goal is aligned to that purpose, then immediately motivation comes. Any goal that's aligned to a purpose that we may have, regardless of what that purpose is and regardless of what that goal is, as long as the goal and the purpose are aligned, there is immediately a motivation to achieve that goal, even if it is an impossible goal. So next, there should be clarity of that purpose. So if there is alignment, it can come only if there is clarity. If there is no clarity, then there's no question of alignment too, right? What will you align your motivation with, or what will you align your goal with? The goal needs a clear purpose to align with. Okay, next, even given all these things, it does not mean that we'll be able to move towards that goal. There should be a motivation. There should be a contemplation on the goal fulfillment happiness. That is, the motivation itself is dependent upon not merely alignment, but also the feeling that there could be difficult things or there is ambiguity on how I'll achieve the goal. But if I achieve the goal, it'll give me so much satisfaction, so much fulfillment, regardless of what it is. Okay. I'm not talking about a spiritual goal or material goal. I'm talking about both, any goal. So the person should have a sense and should often think about the happiness that is achieved. For example, for many of you who are doing a PhD now, there are going to be challenges, right? And sometimes the journey may seem dark. It may seem like I did so many things, but nothing is moving forward. Just yesterday, I got a call from one scholar. She said, "So, I'm so many months I'm working. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I've done so much. Everything my guide told me I've done. But my guide then says, go do something else. And I feel I'm not going anywhere. Nothing is moving forward." So there are ambiguous zones in this journey, PhD journey, right? Any difficult goal is like that. Any impossible goal, will have these big zones of ambiguity. You don't know where you're going, you don't know what's going on. But then, what helps us to sustain through that? And that is this contemplation on the result, saying that, okay, if I achieve the goal, then the feeling of satisfaction, okay, it could be a material goal, spiritual goal, doesn't matter. For any goal, this contemplation is very powerful. Thinking that, yes, I want to see myself with that goal. So, as a PhD scholar, you want to see yourself standing on that dais, receiving that diploma. Receiving that fellow title. You'll be getting a fellow title in management. In future, the students will get PhD from this institute. Getting a PhD and being known as Doctor so and so. That contemplation will give you that motivation, even through those dark moments. Okay, then what happens? So this motivation is what actually drives the effort. So from good motivation, if motivation is strong and healthy, then you have a reason to get out of your bed in the morning, regardless of the temperature, and get into your work. Start doing your work. Put in the effort, put in the hard work. There's motivation. I want to achieve that goal. Without that effort, it's impossible to reach that goal, right? Merely having motivation, I feel motivated, but I don't do anything. Nothing. It's of course false motivation, because if motivation is genuine, then effort will naturally flow from it. And if effort is there, then naturally one day the goal will be achieved. Okay, now motivation not only leads to effort, but motivation supports that effort in other ways. Why? Because it gives the courage to do what it takes. Okay, in Sanskrit, shurata or shaurya. So this is very important because a lot of difficult times will come in the process. In the PhD journey, a lot of difficulties come. Vasudeva had so much difficulty, but he had the courage to go through it. Okay, it's not merely enough if the gate opens by itself, because he has to go through that river. He has to go through the darkness. He has no idea what's going to come next. So there has to be the courage that, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it because I have to do it. Okay, I have been instructed by Bhagavan himself. God has given me this mission. I have to do it. So I have to complete this PhD no matter what, and I have to do it in this time frame. I've been given a time frame by the institute. I have to finish it. So this motivation is what gives the courage to sustain. And from courage comes that willingness to take risks. Apaya pada sammatihi. I'm willing to take the risk, and that favors the goal achievement. The likelihood of goal achievement goes up when the willingness to take risks goes up. Similarly, courage also gives us the willingness to make sacrifices. So taking risks and making sacrifices are not the same thing. Taking risks means exposing yourself to potential losses. It could be, for example, an injury which comes to you in the process of doing it. It could be the stress, the pain that comes to you. Okay, or it could be some monetary expenditure that comes, which could have been saved if you didn't do all these things. It could be the pain of people pointing mistakes in your work. People will criticize. When you submit a paper to the journal, the reviewers won't be using words which praise you. They'll never praise you. Reviewers don't praise you. If at all they praise you, it will be one or two lines which say that, okay, this paper is well written, it considers all these things. But the criticism will be much more. They will attack your paper from all angles and they'll try to prove why it should not be published in the journal. That is their job. That's why the review is done. So that pain you're willing to take, okay, and willingness to make sacrifices. So what is otherwise, comfortable for you, sacrifice of, for example, let's say that if you are not doing a PhD, then you would have spent the time maybe going to a movie with friends or just going for a walk in the park or just going for a picnic. When friends call you for a picnic, you're there, you show up every time. But now, because you're doing PhD, you can't afford to just loosely give your time. You're very selective. You're reserving your time for certain specific things like your family or some emergencies, but you don't want to just loosely while away. So you sacrifice. I'll forego the picnic, I'll forego the party, I'll forego this, I'll forego that. You forego things. That is tyaga sammati. The willingness to do that comes from that courage which the motivation gives you. And you tolerate the pain. So the tolerance comes because of this courage. So when the pain comes, you say, I look beyond that pain. The pain is not important. The pain looks small. The pain looks small in front of that goal. The goal is much bigger. And therefore, from all this comes the resoluteness. So courage feeds into the resoluteness. Resoluteness is also called dhriti. Tolerance is called kshama in the Indian knowledge system. So all these things are not taken from some arbit literature. It's taken from the Indian knowledge system. Bhagavad-gita supports this thinking. This thinking is in accordance with Bhagavad-gita. This is what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, do this. You are bringing up arguments for something that would probably make sense otherwise, but not in this situation. In this situation, there is a very strong reason for you to do this. And however difficult it looks or impossible it looks that you're going to kill your guru and you kill your grandfather, etc., you have to do this. Come on, get up. And he's trying to motivate him, give him that sense of direction. So this is, the kind of the system which gives us our ability to achieve the goal, and it comes from that strong purpose and the motivation which comes from that purpose. Now, what I did not point out so far is that there's a difference between a material goal and a spiritual goal. Okay, now whatever I said until now applies to both spiritual goals and material goals. Material goals involve the typical goals that we have in this world. Like, I want to build a business. Let's say I have a goal to build a business which has a turnover of 10,000 crores, and I want to reach that level, that kind of performance in the next 10 years. In 10 years, I want to start my business today, but in 10 years, I should reach a turnover of 10,000 crores. I should be able to build a business, an AI-based business. So this is a goal, a material goal. If the money that I'm thinking about from that business is for my personal enjoyment. So the goal becomes a spiritual goal if the result of that goal, a result of achieving that goal, is not for my enjoyment, but for a larger purpose, selflessness, pararthata, aswarthata. This is the difference between a material goal and a spiritual goal. The activity and the goal itself may be the same. The returns which come from the goal also may be the same. But the way we look at those returns is different. In a material goal, the returns are meant for our selfish enjoyment. If I get a 10,000 crore turnover, then I'll be a hero. I'll get awards. I'll be recognized as the entrepreneur of the year. First of all, I'll have a lot of money. I'll live in a huge bungalow with a lot of servants, a lot of cars. Everything will be at my call and disposal. My wife will, totally move in different circles. I will be in the midst of Bollywood stars. I'll be talking to cricketers. I'll be talking to the politicians. The people with whom I'm dealing with, I won't be dealing with all these people now. The people I'm dealing with now, no. I'll be dealing with all of those people. I'll be in a different space altogether. I'll be traveling in my own private jet. So this kind of thinking is material thinking, thinking of one's own gratification, one's own ego, blooms when that happens. Of course, such a person also sometimes thinks that, okay, I will also show some kindness. There are poor people. I should do something for that. But I should do, the I in me is the one who is doing all that, right? I am the hero. I am the hero. I am the savior of these poor people. I am the one who is feeding them. I am the one who is doing this. It's in my name. This charity is in my name. This building is named after me. That is named after me. This ground is named after me. Everything is after me, right? I am the center of this universe. This is Lakshya Siddhi Sambhavana. Motivation comes from that ego. Right? This is material thinking. Exactly the same thing. I'll build a 10,000 crore business, but I'll use that money, nothing for me. I will take minimum what is required to live a decent life. I will still live in a similar house. Of course, I may need more security if I'm doing 10,000 crores. I will maybe employ security just to ensure that I can continue to live in this world. But my money will be used for Sri Bhagavan's pleasure, for that universal purpose. I'm a part of this large universe. I'm a part of that universal being, that Brahman, that Bhagavan, that Paramatma, from whom everything comes. And everything that I'm doing, the results of my activity. Actually, Karma Yoga begins here. That's why Karma Yoga is the basic quality of Karma Yoga is this selflessness. When we say anasakti or detachment from the goal, this is the meaning of detachment. So the question is asked, how can I be detached and still work hard? If I'm detached from the goal, then where is the motivation to work? The motivation to work is that I want to be seen or not seen. I want to have that satisfaction of being a servant of that Supreme, that fulfillment, that I did something without taking anything for myself. Not even recognition, no fame. Of course, people will come to know and they will obviously come and praise me. But I am not looking for that, and I don't take any pleasure in that. I will try to minimize it as much as possible. Okay, this thinking, I'll shy away from it. A person who is genuine, a genuinely pure-hearted person, will shy away from any praise as much as he can, right? Unless it's practically impossible to avoid it. In some cases, it is. But in many cases, it's possible, and you will see that there are great people in this world who just don't take any praise for themselves. They just remain very simple, very humble. They don't show off, they don't act. And I've personally met some people like that sometimes. So this is the thinking that makes the same thing, which is material, also spiritual. And this is what we should have. So the same goal, material goal or spiritual goal, becomes different depending on the thinking. So today's session was focused on how Vasudeva completely motivated, because he sees himself as a das of Bhagavan. Although he is the father of the Supreme Being now, he has been given that position. He does not see himself as a person who is controlling Bhagavan, but he sees himself as a person who is now executing a mission because he has to do it at Bhagavan's order. And his satisfaction comes in just doing it and keeping quiet. He just done what he could do. Now he has to wait for the next thing to happen, and he does that. Okay, so he is a classic example of, a role model that can inspire spirituality in people. Of course, we can also comment on how Vasudeva has been through enormous amount of difficulty in his life, a difficulty that no normal human being, even a selfish human being, will go through normally. On the day of his marriage to a very noble girl, he has to save her from the hands of her own brother. He has to save her from getting killed. And shortly thereafter, he is faced with the situation of handing over his newborn child to Kamsa. He goes and does that. Imagine the difficulty. Any father has to take the newborn child to a killer and say, kill, okay, now kill this child. Why? Because I promised you, you let my wife go. Right? What a crazy situation this is. Nobody faces this situation, but he's facing it. Okay. So we should not dismiss all this as just mythological story written for entertainment. It's not. It's real history. And this is part of Indian history. That's why it's part of the Indian knowledge system. And it is something that very rarely people go through. And you will see that in the Indian knowledge system, the greatest people go through such difficulty. The people who are bhaktas, the people who are the most saintly, are also put into these situations, because only through them, if a person who is not saintly is put in a similar situation, he will collapse. No ordinary person will be able to take this kind of difficulty, right? Vasudeva is put into, after that baby is now returned by Kamsa, then very shortly thereafter he is imprisoned with his wife, and over a period of 8 years, 6 babies are killed and one baby has a miscarriage. So which father can take that? Nobody. An ordinary human being cannot take that. He will commit suicide, or he will go crazy. He will become a lunatic, right? He will lose all faith in everything. But Vasudeva does not lose anything. He is as strong as he was on day one, right? Because he is a bhakta. He is a Nitya Bhakta of Bhagavan. And that is the meaning of becoming saintly. Saintliness or spirituality is not weakness, it is strength. Through them, Sri Bhagavan demonstrates to us the strength that spirituality gives. And strength means knowledge or happiness. Happiness, knowledge, and strength, these are all highly correlated to each other. Strength is inner strength. It's not muscular strength. It's not physical strength. It's not about looking handsome or muscular outside or looking beautiful. It's not about being rich. It's about being internally strong. And that is real strength. So we hear this again and again in the story of saintly people, and this is just yet another episode in the series of narrations that we are hearing. So, very dark times are a part of life, but for those who place God in the center of their life, the whole universe removes that darkness, like we see in Vasudeva's case. So, for him, dark times keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. And there's one more episode that's going to happen in the next story we're going to hear. And further things also happen in the Mahabharata, Harivamsha, and also in Bhagavatam, we will come to hear about Vasudeva's life. But all the time, Bhagavan is in the center of his life, and that light which comes from Bhagavan, the whole universe puts that light on that person, and the person has clarity. He knows what's happening around him, he has no confusion, right? And now look at it from Yashoda's point of view or Nanda's point of view. Sometimes God takes a valuable away but gives something priceless in return. So sometimes in life, for those who are saintly, for noble, something very valuable is lost, is taken away. But what did they get? Yogamaya went away from them and Krishna came in return, the master of Yogamaya. So they had no idea, right? Maybe if they were given the choice, I don't know what they would have said, but here it is. Without their consent, God says, I will come to you because you're so pure hearted. And He uses their own child to do that exchange. And He's there. So these are very valuable lessons. Now, for all the intelligence that we get from so much literature, we read a lot of literature, and there's no scarcity of literature which motivates us to do impossible things. Because spoke about achieving the impossible today. There's a lot of literature which tells about setting huge goals and achieving success in life and doing this and that. And these books are very nice to read and they do inspire us, no doubt about that. And I would recommend that if you are feeling down, you can definitely read many of these books and get inspiration and start doing your work. That's always good. But what is missing in all of them, or most of them, is this understanding that all motivation ultimately comes from God. Unless God is in the center, life is not complete. Okay, any kind of motivation we get without God ultimately, is something that we have to leave behind. But what we take with God, or what we experience or gain with God in our center, that goes with us life after life, and that is real richness. So, yes, we should take motivation from all literature, but should add one more element to it, and that is God. Bhagavan should be in the center of our life all the time, and all motivation should be connected to what He wants, what the universe as a large wants, universe at large or as a whole wants to be fulfilled as God's intention, as Sri Bhagavan's intention. So, if you keep that in mind, then life becomes perfect. So I will stop with this for today, and I'm very eager to hear your questions, comments, etc. I'm going to now unmute all of you. Feel free to ask whatever comes to your mind, or make any comments if you wish to make any comments or share an experience from your side. You can turn on the video when you speak so others also can see you.
Sir Bhaskar, can you take us back to that flowchart that you had created in the previous slide?
Yeah. A flowchart is similar to the frameworks that you create in your thesis, right? There's
Exactly.
some similarity with them. You can write hypothesis now and design scales to measure these things. Bhagavad Gita you can use to make literature review. Those of, if anybody does, I'm sure none of you are doing in IKS, but we do have some scholars who say that they want to do their doctoral work in IKS. They can bring in ideas from Bhagavad Gita, Mahabharata, Ramayana, because a lot of such theory is there. All the theory I'm talking about here, it's not just from Western literature. Western literature also says similar things, no doubt.
In fact, sir, when I look at this, right, I mean, I was trying to look at what are the existing theories that I have studied in my EFPM, and uh, immediately the theory of result action and theory of planned behavior came to my mind. Some
Okay.
of this can be, there could be a small overlap between what you have put here because it's all about intention and behavior.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
how does it drive that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There is a lot of
So there
overlap.
is one thing. Sorry, sir. You were saying something?
No, I just said that there is a lot of overlap, but please continue.
Sir, I had one observation, and I don't know how to read this or put this. I do not see any feedback loop into this flowchart. Everything is flowing sequentially from left to right, left
Yeah.
to middle to center. Could there be a feedback loop as well somewhere?
Yeah.
And I don't know what could be those constructs
Well,
or
well,
intentions.
one very obvious feedback loop is that when you achieve the goal, when the likelihood of goal achievement goes up, then finally, when the goal is achieved, it feeds back into our motivation. Our sense of purpose, our clarity of life purpose becomes stronger, right? So then the courage to do, when we have the next goal, the courage to do that will become even stronger because you've already achieved one goal in the past, an impossible goal. So
Yes, sir.
each time we achieve an impossible goal, the next goal, you feel even stronger to go towards it. You can achieve an even bigger goal next time. So the feedback loop is definitely there. You can create constructs and then identify feedback loops. So all experiences
Right, sir.
feed back into us because of what is called as smriti. We remember samskara, smriti, and smriti motivates us. Smriti is the beginning of feedback.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Pranam, sir.
Pranam Sarthak.
Uh, Sir, I wanted to get an elaboration on something that you discussed. So, this framework stands to true for both the material goals as well as the spiritual goals. And
Yes,
difference, which was that in the material centric goals, the I was quite dominant, while in the
yes.
spiritual path, we try to dissolve this I or this ahankara. Now, sir, I understand. So these are the two extremities of one spectrum. I wanted to understand what if I take out a point which is somewhere in the middle. So, for example, I know for sure that it won't be spiritual if I'm transcending from I to mine. So, if I have goals like, okay, I want to build a good corpus of money, or I want to be successful in my career, in my profession, and the motivation for money is so that I can serve my parents well, or if I can treat my partner with luxury, or if I can give a good ecosystem to my family, if I can say do good for my community where I live in. So again, this my factor is dominant over there, and this is not a spiritual goal. But is there some way this material goal can also be spiritualized, or does it remain material and it is only a dharmic thinking? So your comment, sir.
This can be spiritualized. Definitely, this goal is better than the goal of a person not even thinking of his parents or his wife, but thinking of himself as the center. But now this person is thinking of his parents. So definitely, it's a better goal or a more spiritual goal than otherwise. Now, beyond that, if he starts seeing that I'm actually a part of this universal system, I'm a small fragment, I'm a small dot in the larger universal structure. I'm just one among these countless living beings which are a part of God. And God should be at the center of my life, all motivation. So the motivation to serve my parents and please them should have at the root the understanding that my parents actually are a form of God. And by doing this, God will be pleased. He'll be very happy. And that is my real purpose in life, to do everything in a way that God is pleased. Because I want to be fully aligned to Him. Just like Hanuman. How does Hanuman think? So that's why these examples are given to us in the Shastra. Hanuman, how do the Pandavas think? Right? Or for that matter, how do even people like Bhishma think? Bhishma also, you see that when the Rajasuya, the Rajasuya Yaga, at that time Shishupala objects to Krishna being worshipped. So Bhishma, without any thinking, he says, I mean, what I mean by without thinking is that very spontaneously, Bhishma suggests the name of Krishna. Although Krishna is not the eldest by age in that assembly, there are so many kings sitting there who are much older by age and who are more accomplished as kings. Krishna is not accomplished as a king, he is only a prince in Dwaraka. And to the general public, he is just seen as one rich guy, one rich kid. He's the grandson of Ugrasena and he's there in Dwaraka. He's got a big rich palace and he's enjoying a lot of wives and all that. He's got a lot of richness, he's got a very powerful army. He's just seen as one rich kid who's got some wisdom in him. He's not seen as some big elder whom everybody should worship. But in Bhishma's mind, he's God. Bhishma knows with complete clarity that this is Vishnu Bhagavan himself. It is not some ordinary prince or king. So immediately when the question comes of who should be given the Agra Puja is the first puja which is done before any major event like a Rajasuya Yaga or any yaga is performed. So whom should we do the Agra Puja for first? Immediately Bhishma says, because he is the eldest by age, so immediately he says that uh, it should be done to Krishna for this reason. And it would have been done that way if Shishupala did not object. Immediately Shishupala objects, and then there's an argument between him and Bhishma, right? So Bhishma is an example of how God was at his center. And he took decisions keeping dharma in mind. Ultimately, he ended up on the side of the Kauravas in the war, but even then, his thinking was guided by the principles of dharma, right? By and large.
Yes, sir. So why this question came to my mind is that so since we are talking about examples, we also heard the story of Sri Sudama
Yeah,
some time back, and there again, if you see, he is considered one of the pinnacle, one of the highest bhaktas that
yeah.
we regard as. And when his wife asked him that, okay, you go to ask for some wealth so that we can say sustain ourselves, even then his mind was so pure that he, in some way, in certain sense, he did not take up the key objective that his wife had sent her with.
Yeah.
So in that kind of scenario, he does not ask even well for his own family or his children. So I know that that is very high kind of spirituality, but can there be some way wherein, I mean, so it ends in a good manner that, okay, everyone is wealthy and opulent, but maybe if someone has to think about their inner circle or maybe someone who are associated with them, some welfare for them, so how to spiritualize that? So that is again what you said, that keeping Bhagwan in mind, what would please Bhagwan. So I want to earn money, but to make my the people who I'm associated with, make those happy because Sri Bhagwan is in them. So that could be one way of thinking
At
about it.
our level of spirituality, the where we are right now, we are sadhakas. We have just begun our journey.
Mhm.
At our level of thinking, that is appropriate. That is how we should think. We should think that I should earn money, I should live a very sattvic life, I should earn money in order to live a sattvic life. I
Mhm.
should not hoard money for my sensual enjoyment or gratification,
Mhm.
for just pumping up my ego, for expanding my ego and proving myself as the thing. I should not earn money for that purpose, but I should earn money for some very useful purpose, beginning with my parents,
Mhm.
beginning with my own family and parents. The charity begins at home. So that logic applies here. And also use my money for other good things, like promoting spiritual thoughts in the minds of others too,
Mhm.
by organizing spiritual events or by distributing books like Bhagavad-gita to others, etc., etc. There could be 100 ways of doing that. So I should use my money and my time for such things. And this
Mhm.
is my practice of spirituality at this level. It's perfectly
Mhm.
fine. Sudama's level of spirituality is much higher. His realization, his knowledge,
Yes.
and his detachment from the world. See, ultimately, everything goes towards detachment and the
Mhm.
role that you are given in this birth. Sudama is born a Brahmana, and a Brahmana's dharma. It naturally comes to a Brahmana to be simple. A Brahmana does never accumulate because his occupation does not require accumulating wealth, like the
Correct.
occupation of a Kshatriya does. If you see
Mhm.
Pandavas, they accumulate wealth. They
Mhm.
go and accumulate wealth and they conduct the Rajasuya Yajna, etc., which makes them the what do you call the sovereign power. They want to get sovereign power. They want other kings to recognize their power. It is the
Yes.
duty of a Kshatriya, the dharma of a Kshatriya to do those such things. So they do
Mhm.
that, even though they are detached. And you can see that when they go to Vanavas, they don't go depressed. The
Mhm.
consciousness is the same. The consciousness with which they're living in the midst of extreme luxury in Indraprastha, which they have built up themselves, and the consciousness with which they go to Vanavas and live in a hut
Mhm.
is exactly the same. They go with the same frame of mind. They are not depressed because all the time their consciousness is not in the money or the power or the fame or the grandeur. Their consciousness is is in that identity with Bhagavan and with that sense of dharma, that strong sense of dharma. It's so strongly. But we cannot imitate that. We should be
Correct.
very clear. We cannot imitate that. We
Correct.
have to only keep that as a benchmark and borrow principles from there. We should borrow what can I learn from Yudhishthira? What can I learn from Arjuna? What can I learn from Bhima? From each of those characters, what can I learn from Draupadi, the most inspirational character? So from each of them, we learn and adopt into our life, and slowly we develop detachment over time.
Right. So basically, the practices are different as per the different levels of advancement. So the math
Yeah.
for an LKG student is different from that from a fifth grader from that
Yes,
10th grader.
naturally.
Although all of this is math, all of this is promoted, but you should figure out at what level you are and then practice accordingly.
Yes, and that is why talking to a guru or taking the advice of a guru or any senior person who is already on this path, it helps. It
Yes.
gives the light. When we are confused, the guru helps us, guides us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, since you have touched upon this, so I was contemplating on a shloka that you have on numerous occasions quoted in this series, and some observation I had in mind. I would like to hear your comments if it is the right thinking or wrong thinking or whatever. If your comments. So since you said there are different levels, so broadly there are sadhakas and siddhas. And there is a shloka that you quoted that Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho, Smarnam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atmanevedanam. So, what came to me was that for a Siddha, for an advanced person, so when he is in the purest sense of bhakti, so all of these are simply manifestations. So, the bhakti manifests as Shravanam or Kirtanam or Vandanam, or in any one of these 9 ways. But when you are a sadhaka, so is this some kind of a ladder that you begin with Shravanam? You first come to know by hearing, then you talk about it, then Smaranam, then you think about it, then you have an aspiration that, okay, I should do some service. Then you actually do some Vandanam, Archanam, that goes stage 4, and then you develop that Dasyam and Sakhyam Bhav, which ultimately culminates in Atmanivedanam, and then you get closer to the Siddha stage from the Sadhaka stage. So is that is there a ladder in the case of a sadhaka?
In my understanding, at least the current understanding that I have, in this shloka, there is no ladder. There's a different place, there's another place where Sri Rupa Goswami gives that ladder. I'll come to that. In this shloka, all the 9 practices described here can be done simultaneously. The same sadhaka, regardless of what level he is in, does all of them, like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam. So Dasyam, Sakyam all mean thinking about oneself as a servant of Bhagavan. Sakyam means thinking of Sri Bhagavan as a close friend, a well-wisher, a friend, and so on. So all this is happening simultaneously. All this happens simultaneously. Now, the ladder is given in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, 8-stage process. Begins with Shraddha, Adau Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha. So, Shraddha means the conviction in bhakti, conviction in the process of bhakti. That begins. It comes from whatever source, maybe by seeing another bhakta or hearing about it from someone. Okay, develop an initial conviction, Adau Shraddha, the initial Shraddha. And then it goes to Sadhu Sangha. Then there's a desire. So, when does a person know that they have got some Shraddha now? When they desire to associate with the saintly people, and they are willing to sacrifice their association with other people for doing that. So instead of going to a party with my friends, I may say that no, at this time there is a discourse in the temple, so I'll go to the temple because I want to hear that discourse. Or there's some event in the temple. There's Radha Ashtami today, so they are celebrating Radha Ashtami by doing some puja, and then there will be prasad and everything. So I would prefer to see the puja and have the prasad there than to go to the party and have a dinner with my friends. So when this happens, then one knows that one has got some shraddha in the process of bhakti. Sadhu Sangha. Then Bhajana Kriya. So by doing Sadhu Sangha with the sadhus, associating with them for some time, one develops an eagerness to do the things that they are doing. That's called Bhajana Kriya. And Bhajana Kriya includes all these things. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, all these things are part of bhajana kriya. It also includes other things which may not be directly mentioned here. For example, like cleaning the temple or supporting the temple financially by making some monetary contributions to the temple or anything like that. Anything which goes in bhajana kriya. A lot of things. There are hundreds of activities which can be listed in specific contexts, in different contexts. In Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu alone, Sri Rupa Goswami lists some 64 other activities, totally 64 activities, which include, you know, making flowers for the deity and so many things. Okay, we'll go into that some other time. So bhajana kriya. Then, okay, so Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, bhajana kriya. Then anartha nivritti. Anartha nivritti means all the anarthas in our consciousness, anarthas in our linga shariram, all the unwanted things. Anartha means unwanted thing which disturb us. These are destroyed. So they include all the raga and dvesha, the attachments to different things, the hatred against people, jealousy, envy, anger, the tendency to become angry for silly things, right? Tendency to become angry when somebody hurts us. So whatever, all these things are anarthas. They disturb. They are obstacles to bhakti. So they get slowly destroyed. So when bhajana kriya is done intently, beginning with the japa, nama japa. So then automatically these things get destroyed. When I say automatically, I mean that's the effect of these bhajana kriya. It just happens.
But rag and dvesh for dharma and adharma still remain. That rag for dharma and dvesh for adharma. That would
Yes,
still
of
remain.
course, of course. So when I said raga and dvesh, I meant for material sense.
Mhm.
But spiritual sense, yes. So the rag for the spiritual thing becomes stronger. That's going to come now. That's going to come later in the same ladder.
Okay.
So I've told 4 now, right? So
Yes.
Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti. The 4th one. The 5th one is Nishtha. So after sufficient Anartha Nivritti has happened, one reaches a stage called Nishtha. Nishtha means one becomes very firmly fixed. Then one becomes, once Shraddha is so strong. See, Shraddha is something that evolves as you go forward. Initially begins in a small way, but Shraddha keeps building. And finally it reaches a stage of Nishtha when it becomes so strong that under any circumstances that person will not give up bhakti. Even if there are disturbances in personal life, okay, for temporarily the person's bhajan may get disturbed. Temporarily bhajana kriya may get disturbed and some disturbing thoughts may come to the mind. But the resilience is there. Resilience means the person bounces back. He bounces back, comes back to his original state of doing steady bhakti after some time. So Nishta, that is called the stage of Nishta. Regardless of how you, just like a pendulum, if you move the pendulum from its center, it will again come back. So for some time it's away from the center, but it again comes back. How much ever you move it away from the center, it always comes back to the center, right? So like that, Nishtha means it will bring back the person to their original state of doing bhakti, regardless of what disturbance comes. However difficult the disturbance is, the person comes back to Nishtha. So that is stage 5.
So, so bhakti will come from basically mind to heart. So I don't think I am a man. I live like it. So that
Yes.
is the difference between Shraddha
Yeah,
and
bhakti becomes
Nishtha.
more spontaneous. It becomes much more natural and spontaneous, and our sense of identity as a bhakta becomes now very, rooted. It becomes rooted, strongly rooted, and nobody can shake it. Anybody, any kind of, just like Hiranyakashipu. So there could be a Hiranyakashipu in our life. Not our father. I'm not referring to our father, but some guy who wants to disturb us all the time. But that person cannot do anything to our bhakti. He may disturb many other things, but he cannot touch our bhakti. Bhakti becomes so strong. Okay, then after that, after bhakti, then comes ruchi. Bhakti comes asakti. Sorry, asakti means deeper attachment. Attachment becomes very deep, even deeper than it was earlier. That's called the stage of asakti. Okay. Uh, then comes ruchi. After asakti, so nishtha, asakti, ruchi. Ruchi is very deep, very fine taste for bhakti. Anything that is connected to Krishna, the name of God, anything, any news about God, everything sounds so sweet. Our life is filled with sweetness. Her sweetness flows in everything that we do, regardless of the condition in which we live. Like now we are talking about Sudama living in a miserable condition, right? But Sudama, being a bhakta, does not experience misery that you and I would experience if we were in that situation. He is all the time experiencing that sweetness of being like that. It's his wife who sees him, wife who sees and feels the pain. Of course, wife also is in that ruchi state, but she doesn't want to see her husband like that. Being a pativrata, her dharma is to ensure that her husband is, having proper clothes and not having to eat only one meal a day. Husband's body is suffering. She doesn't want to see that also. So she drives him there. So that is the stage of ruchi. Okay, so we have now reached stage 7 now, right? Nishta was 5, then asakti and ruchi, we are in number 7. And the final one, 8th one, is bhakti or prema. That is where prema begins. Prema is the ultimate thing. So after ruchi, it is prema. In prema, the person is completely, very spontaneously. Bhakti doesn't have to now depend on sadhana. So until this point, the person's sadhana also played a role, right? Sadhana sustains the path of bhakti. If sadhana is left, then it will become weak, it will start drooping. But when prema comes, then even sadhana is no longer dependent on sadhana, it's very spontaneous. That means that antaranga shakti of Bhagavan has now completely come inside us. That Radha about whom we are worshipping, the Radha whom we worship, is antaranga shakti of Bhagavan. That antaranga shakti flows into us. And then onwards, we are completely controlled by it. Everything that we do, this complete stage of fearlessness. There's no fear, there's no concern for anything. That stage is a very, very advanced stage.
Sir,
And
so
there is,
I get two questions over here. One is that in the case of prema,
yeah,
so isn't that in such a stage? So you said that sadhana is not required. So isn't that such a state that sadhana becomes the natural way? I mean, you do not do anything apart from sadhana, and then it is a virtuous kind of a loop that okay, since you are in the stage of prema, so you again do conducive activities which again reinforce this prema. So a virtuous kind of.
that depends on how Bhagavan, because see, in the stage of prema, one reaches the stage of perfect refuge in Bhagavan. Sharanagati becomes
Mhm.
perfect. Okay, in that stage, prema is experienced, just like in the case of all the Nitya Bhaktas, like the Pandavas and Vasudeva, Devaki, Nanda, Yashoda, the Gopas, Gopis, they're all in that stage. So for them, uh, Bhagavan controls, the Antaranga Shakti controls their life, tells them what they should do from within. So, like I do or you do japa, like any sadhaka does japa, in order to become more and more, advanced and more shuddha, in order to purify ourselves.
Mhm.
Vasudeva Devaki don't have to do that, and if Bhagavan wants them to do it, he will make them do it. Whatever he wants them to do, he will make them do. So there are Nitya Bhaktas like that. Like for example, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Leela, there is a Bhakta by name Haridas Thakur, also known as Haridas Thakur.
Mhm.
And he was known for doing Nitya Japa, means almost 24 hours in a day, he would be just doing Japa. He had taken a vow that he
Mhm.
would chant 300,000 times the name of Bhagavan. If you consider one Hare Krishna mantra as 16,
Mhm.
Hare Krishna, if you count, there are 16 words in it,
Correct.
right? So 300,000 means so many times he has to repeat 300,000 divided by 16. That many times he has to repeat that Hare Krishna mantra. And that would take nearly 24
Correct.
hours in the day to do that. 23 and a half hours. So he would go on chanting till the end of till the next whatever time. And then
Mhm.
there would be a small gap
Mhm.
in which he has to quickly wash himself, maybe have a small piece of butter or something, and then start the next day's japa. So this is a very high stage where his
Correct.
whole
Yes.
thinking and his body is controlled by that prema. He's not logically thinking, I have to do this. That prema directs
Yes.
him
Yes.
to do that, and he does just as. He's just a small instrument in the hands of that prema.
Mhm. Sir, so this brings me to two things. So one, you said that prema is sharanagati.
Yeah.
So isn't this the same as atma nivedanam here, prem?
Atmanivedanam as a practice means I'm deliberately offering myself. In prema, that person's nivedanam is already done. It's complete. He's in the state of being nivedita. He is nivedita. So there it's mentioned
Okay.
in that
Okay. So
shloka,
Nivedam
Atmanivedanam,
becomes
when Prahlad is
Nivedita.
mentioning it, he's talking about it as sadhana. It's a part of sadhana to go to Bhagavan and say, I am yours. मैं आपका हूँ, आप मेरे हैं. You are mine, I am yours. This is Atmanivedanam as a practice. But somebody like Haridas Thakur or somebody like Arjuna doesn't have to do that practice because they already are Bhagavans. Bhagavan already has made them his and they have made Bhagavan theirs. He doesn't have to practice it in his thinking. You follow?
Yes, sir. Sir, your commentary, this reminds me of one anecdote, and I think this can be a good commentary on this as well. I would like your comments that if my thinking is right in this direction. So I remember that there is this incident then when Sri Totapuri Maharaj he came and he gave initiation and he taught Sri Ramakrishna Paramhamsa. So they had their interaction, and then once Sri Ramakrishna asked him that since you are a Gyani, he was an enlightened being. So he asked that even so, you are a Gyani, you are an enlightened one, you are situated in Brahman. So why do you again go into samadhi? So what is the need for samadhi for you? So he points out to the brass utensil that he had, and he said that if you do not clean it regularly, then there is a some layer which gets formed. So you need to keep washing it so that it retains its shine. So that is why this samadhi is important. But then Sri Ramakrishna he retorts back with a good question. He says that, see, in case of a brass utensil, you'll have to keep washing it, but it need not be when the utensil is made of gold. So this commentary that you made, that once you are in prema, and so in the stage of bhakti in that sense, and when you are letting yourself loose, then that is some form of gold as opposed to brass, and then God takes over. So there is no need for you washing that utensil, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yes. It is spontaneous. It's completely spontaneous. There's no need to deliberately do a practice. All practices spontaneously flow from the intelligence which prema directs. Intelligence is taken over by prema. Prema is something we cannot create by imagination. I cannot just imagine I love Krishna like some people we see doing to display their love for Krishna outside publicly. Anybody who does that, you become suspicious whether it's done just for attracting attention or they really have any love. Because otherwise, you'll see them indulging in normal material pleasures relentlessly
Right.
and fighting with other people, doing all kinds of rubbish. So that is not prema. Prema means it's very spontaneous. There is no planning, and it's something that with our imagination we cannot create it. We can only understand it theoretically now. It has to be experienced by when it comes. When it comes, we experience it, and then we know that we have it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right now, we just develop a liking for the idea of prema. When we hear about it, it sounds likable. It sounds like something that we might want to have. Correct?
So, sir, somewhere if I look myself at, so in the ladder that you spoke, it would be somewhere between Shraddha and Sadhu somewhere. So attending these sessions.
Yeah.
So somewhere
Yeah,
we are
correct.
sadhakas, we are beginning, and the role models that have been described in the Shastras, they are somewhere at the prema stage, as you said.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
yes, so imitation is not the key, but basically gauging yourself where you are and then taking the wise choices as per Vivek.
Yes, yes. You're right. You're right. Mm.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else? So Sarthak asked very good questions today. We had a very good discussion. Any doubts apart from these, or any comments you would like to make, or any experiences you want to share with us? If there's nothing further, then we can close the class.
Sir, I had one more observation, if no one else has, otherwise I can take this up in the next class.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, so I was just contemplating that how does a jnani differ from that of a bhakta? So what came to my mind was that, say, a jnani would be, say, thinking that everything is this manifestation of this consciousness, and Ishvara is then is the same consciousness which is manifested in full glory, Vishuddha Sattva. So a Jnani would say that, okay, he would take the manifestation of Ishvara as, say, to visualize it as some form of sphere. So there is this consciousness, and there are different points on this sphere. So Rama is same as Krishna, as same as Mahavishnu, and all different manifestations of Ishvara are basically the manifestations of that same consciousness. So A is equal to B is equal to C, and this equality is the key concern of that Jnani. But when you want to graduate from the stage of Jnana to Bhakti, then what you do is you cut this sphere into some form of, say, a structure as of a tree. So there you have a root node. You say that you give primacy to A. So although A is equal to B is equal to C, but you take your A as per your Ishtadevta or the Sampradaya or the basically the Shastra, what Shastra agrees to. So your Sampradaya based on Shastra. So you say that, okay, Shri Krishna is the original form, and then from Shri Krishna, the expansion is Shri Ananta Sesha and different fold expansions, and then a world comes up. For Shri Hanuman, it would be Shri Ram is the true sense of the heart of universe, or Shri Ram is the ultimate form of God, and from Shri Ram emerges Sita Mata, Lakshmanji, and then from them emerge Mahavishnu and then Krishna. So something like that. So in a stage of bhakti, when you want to specialize to bhakti, you give although you understand A is equal to B is equal to C, but you give primacy to A, and then from A all of it is derived and you revere them. But A is central. In the case of Jnana, that equality is central, that equal to sign is central. So maybe, sir, your comments if this is, I mean, to some extent, correct.
No, this is not the distinction between jnana and bhakti. The distinction that we make is very simple. It's not about having a taratamya. You spoke about the taratamya that bhakti recognizes. The taratamya is there, but that's not the main thing. What I mean by taratamya is that hierarchy. Krishna is original, then Anantasesha comes, then Vishnu comes. This is there in the literature, but this is not the main thing in the Siddhanta. Main thing in the Siddhanta is the greed for prema, that strong desire to get prema, and success of bhakti is in being situated in prema. Success in bhakti is to have that prema and become completely subservient to that prema and exist in prema forever. That is the focus of bhakti, and that's the thinking of a bhakta. Whereas thinking of a jnani, a sadhaka jnani, and as he becomes perfect also, is mukti, means that I should not have birth again. I should be situated in pure knowledge about my own self and myself as a part of that Brahman. Again, there too, depending on so the Advaitis, for example, will think that I am that Brahman. There's no other entity. The non-Advaiti Jnanis will just think I am a part of that Brahman. I am a small amsha of that Brahma. And I have the same qualities as that Brahma, although I am small. My nature of being fully knowledgeable, full knowledge, full happiness, and no punarjanma. There's no punarjanma in the samsara. Okay, I always exist in eternal happiness. So this is the focus of the jnani, to get that mukti from samsara. Mukti is the focus of the jnani, whereas prema is the focus of the bhakta. It's not about A is equal to B is equal to C and A greater than B greater than C. That's not the difference. Those are superficial differences. They are not the main difference. That may appear in some literature, that may not appear, but that doesn't matter. The main fundamental difference is this, what I just explained to you now.
Sir, so a jnani would also want to have the taste of bhakti. So there have been many
It
scholars.
depends on what they have been exposed to. Jnani ultimately wants this, but they use bhakti as a medium. Jnani who realizes that without bhakti, pure jnana, the true jnana or true mukti is not possible. Only bhakti gives mukti. Merely, because other than bhakti, what else is there in the sadhana? It is nothing but different types of tapasya, right? You do vrata, tapasya, all the kinds of seva. You may do seva like giving dan, whatever type of seva. You try to practice selflessness, no doubt. Jnana yoga, karma yoga, all forms of yoga, selflessness is an essential ingredient. Otherwise, it's not yoga. But you can be selfless even without really getting this kind of bhakti. Bhakti where you think of yourself as a das of Bhagavan. You follow? Selflessness is there if you identify yourself as a part of the universal being and you say that is the nature of the universal being. And I am not a part of this world. I have to leave everything behind. When this body dies, everything is removed from me. Whatever I have, nothing belongs to me. So mamatva towards the material objects, everything goes. So all the jnani, the karma yogi, they cultivate all these qualities. But a bhakta looks beyond all these things. For a bhakta, these things are implicit. These are already there. But for him, the interest is in becoming a das of Bhagavan, identifying himself as a servant and somebody whose existence is for his pleasure, for Bhagavan's pleasure. This thinking is not there in the jnani's mind.
So, sir, when I talked about that tree form of a structure, so what I meant was when you essentially identify that, okay, this is the root for you, and then this becomes the most dominant force in your life, then automatically, then that becomes the key theme in your life that, okay, A is everything for me. So for Shri Hanuman, Lord Ram is everything. He is
That's
the entire
okay.
universe.
Hierarchy, see, he is also not thinking of hierarchy. Hanuman also does not
hierarchy.
think. But for him, he knows only Ram. He doesn't know any other form of Bhagavan. For him, Bhagavan means Ram. That's all. For somebody else, Bhagavan means Krishna. For somebody else, Bhagavan means some other form. It doesn't matter. For them, the debate, somebody comes and debates with him about hierarchy, he won't be interested in it.
Correct.
You follow? So this is not required for him to know that also, know the hierarchy or anything. He's only, all the time he's thinking, what is the next thing I should do for Bhagavan? How should I live every day, every moment of my life? And that Antaranga Shakti inside him is making him do that. And he's experiencing the joy of doing it all the time, continuously.
So the key difference is that of bhava, not knowledge essentially.
Yeah. The way they think about it and the way they think about themselves in relation to that. That's where the karma yogi, jnana yogi and bhakti yogi, they differ from each other.
Right, sir.
In terms of selflessness, all of them would be almost selfless in the same way. Dan, everything, puja, everything they would all do. All of them, external activities is all the same. The internal consciousness would be different.
Yes, sir. Got it. So the bhav changes. Yes. So for the jnani, maybe in the very staunch sense, it would be, as you said, mukti. That I am not this body, I am not this mind, I am not this intellect.
Yeah, and bhakti is seen as a means for mukti.
Yes, sir.
Good. So we'll stop with this today. We can continue this discussion in a future occasion.
Yes.
Thank you for the good questions and engaging me too. I'll now do the Antyamangalam.
Thank you for the insights, sir.
Okay. I'll do the Antyamangalam. Please join me in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra in your own mind. Om Swasti Prajabhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobbrahmanebhyo Shubhamastu Nityam Lokas Samastas Sukhino Bhavantu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhanyavadaha. Punarmilamaha. Thank you very much.